All right, so you're a bass player. You're the side man. At least you've been told that for all of these years. And now you're waiting on people to call you for a gig. Maybe you've been playing a consistent gig and you're looking for something outside of the normal. Maybe you've been playing for your church and you're looking for something to do, maybe to kind of scratch that itch of being a songwriter, artist, or maybe even music producer. So let's talk about in this video the how, what, when, and where of creating your own gig. All right, so let's jump right into it. I wanted to get on here and do this because I know oftentimes as bass players, I know I did early on in my career, struggle with having an outlet outside of the normal gig. And sometimes you feel as a bass player because most of the, frontmen for bands and stuff are, keyboard players, sometimes even guitar players, saxophone, depending on where you are. Usually it's not the bass player because everybody tells us we're here to hold down the foundation, which is true. But what do you do when you have more ideas that you want to get out and you're looking for another way, maybe to get outside of playing in your practice room? You got some ideas you want to explore. You're not really getting the opportunity to do that maybe at your church or something like that. What do we do? And so this is going to be a really short video just to kind of dive off into that. So here's one of my recommendations. Now, this is something that I've done many, many years ago, not that long ago, but years ago I did this. One of the dilemmas that I was having is that, my own little convictions and stuff like that didn't allow me to do certain gigs any longer. But I still had a desire to have an outlet for my own original music or the things that I was writing as a solo artist, as a bass player. If you didn't know that I was a solo artist, yes, I have. There's stuff you can look on, Apple Music or wherever you buy music from. Find, shameless plug, find Jermaine Morgan or Jermaine Morgan Band, the Jermaine Morgan Band, either one. Type my name in and you'll find all types of music that I have available as an artist. Back to the regularly scheduled program. So anyway, as I was putting out and writing and creating this music that I thought was cool, I suffered from horrible stage presence. And here's what I mean. Oftentimes us as bass players, we stand in the background. We're always supporting everybody else, and we're kind of lost in the background for the most part. But, when I got opportunities here and there to perform my own music and they were coming more and more, I would often be really disappointed at my stage presence and my, how comfortable I was on the stage being the front guy now, as I've been accustomed to being in the back. Maybe that's some of you guys a struggle. Maybe you watching this video trying to figure out, like, I want to do something, but I don't like being out front. So what I did to kind of offset that and give myself an opportunity, because my artist gigs at the time was few, far, and in between. I'm not signed to any label or anything like that. So I was, getting gigs as they came as an artist. But, again, those were spread out. So I didn't have the regularly scheduled situation where I could constantly work on my stage presence. So what I did, and here's my suggestion to you. I went down to the local pizza joint. Like, it was probably 10 minutes from my house. I went down to the local pizza joint and I asked them, hey, man, what's your slowest night? Now, to my knowledge, up to that point, they had no live music anywhere during the week. So I went to him like, hey, man, what's your slowest night of the week? And he was like, Tuesday nights is usually my slowest nights. I was like, okay, cool. So I went back to him and I said, well, let me come back on Tuesday night and let me just, do a little something and see if we can kind of get more people showing up for your situation for Tuesday night to the restaurant. And, that's a good way. So because I'm in creating my own gig or, talking to this owner of this particular restaurant, it needs to be a win-win situation. So that's thing number one. When you're trying to create your own gig, make sure if you're going to go and talk to a local restaurant, something that may not be considered a traditional venue, if you're going to talk to these people, it has to be a win-win situation. It can't just be something, I want a gig, I want to make some money. It has to be a win-win for them. So out of the gate, I ask them, hey, let me come in on your slowest night and let me just sell some CDs. And if it turns into something, then we can talk about, sorry about that, we can talk about compensation if it turns into something a little more than that. So I started doing it. started drawing a little crowd in, and he and I agreed on a very, very small amount because keep in mind that was a very slow night for them, so they wasn't making a lot of money on that particular night. So I think we ended up settling on like gas money or something like that. And so that's pretty much what I was doing. I was selling my CDs that I had, and I was also making a little gas money on the side. But that particular gig wasn't for me to get rich off of. It was an opportunity for me to work on my stage presence and learn how to interact with people who are not there to hear me, because that's a great way to learn how to improve what you're doing on the stage by interacting with people who didn't come there to hear the music, let alone come there to hear you play a bass or whatever your instrument is. All right, so some of y'all might be asking, well, how you do a gig by yourself with just a bass and there's not, you don't have a budget for a band? Well, that's where you have to get creative. So I was using a number of things. So I'll pull out the first one here. I was using my old school Digitech Jam Man stereo looper. This is not a paid ad or anything like that. I'm just letting you guys see what I've been using. I've been had this thing for over 10 years, and it's still solid. So it's my go-to. I got other loopers, but that's kind of like that's my go-to because I'm so familiar with it, and it's really easy to use for me. So I would take, a looper pedal and create a lot of stuff on the spot. What I learned though is in doing that, I had to learn how to get to people's attention, right? I had to learn how to get to people's attention. And oftentimes that would come from me doing something familiar that they recognize, that the average person would recognize. And that doesn't have to be anything that compromises your values or anything like that. You got to get creative with that. Maybe you can take a theme song from a show or something like everybody would recognize, or at least the group or the audience that you're playing with would recognize, and you can build off of that. But again, I take this loop pedal, like right now I got a little drum beat I was playing around with before I got live online. So I take something like this. I made that with the bass. And so I'll take that, and just vibe. So let's see. So I'll just take something like that and vibe and create a song on the spot. Let's see if I can put it together. Loop is too short. And oftentimes what I found when I was doing stuff like that, depending on what it is I was playing, I could often kind of get the crowd involved in it, or finding different ways to get the crowd involved in that different type of stuff. Now, finding your local non-traditional venue, that's one way of creating your own gig. Another thing that you could do, because the idea with this hopefully is not only to make money, but to give you an opportunity to have another outlet. Something else that I started doing around 2013 was I started visiting schools. Same concept, just me. I would often, because I had my own music, I would often have backing tracks that I would bring, or I would bring a drummer with me, or I would bring, again, that looper pedal, and I would interact with the students and that type of thing if they would let me get into the schools. And so I would go and share with the schools, and later I found out that a lot of times some of these schools have budgets, but you would have to get in there and share something worth sharing, not just coming in there and jamming out, unless you're just going and visiting like the bands and the musical parts of the school. But if you're getting into the full schools, sometimes they award money to people who come and share, maybe coming and sharing something from your career perspective. If you're already an established musician, you've already done some things, a lot of times some of these people will have budgets for you to come in and share with their group and somewhat inspire, motivate their people. So I was also doing that. I wasn't necessarily doing that for the money. I started out doing that just as a passion of something that I wanted to do. And I found out that, oh, wow, some of these people are compensating me to come and do this. So that's another way of creating your own gig, your own avenue. The biggest thing is find out what you are interested in, find out what you're passionate about, and pursue that in terms of creating your own gigs, creating your own spaces. You don't always have to start off with a full band. I would say, if possible, keep it small and build. Because the biggest thing you want to build is the relationship first. And as the relationship builds, you can get people coming in there. You can expand from that. But if you start out and you have too many expenses, it's going to get old really fast. It's going to create a lot of anxiety. Not that you don't want to play, with people, but the more people you bring when you're trying to get something started on your own, the more potential anxiety that it can create, because now you have to deal with people showing up late, maybe your band members or something like that, or not showing up at all, somebody you're counting on, and they create unnecessary anxiety. Well, you don't necessarily want to be a one-man show, but these are ideas just for you to get outside of the four walls of your home, to do something different that maybe you haven't been doing, going somewhere local that's near you, providing music. You can do it anytime during the day, whenever they have an opening. If they say, hey, can you come out here from, let's say you don't work a regular day job. Can you come out here around lunchtime from 11 to 3 and just, do a couple of sets for us? And, we'll give you a couple of free meals, or we'll do this, we'll do that. But you can sell your music and use it as an opportunity to grow. Because the thing is, if you're not getting the opportunities, maybe there's some development you need. And if you go in there trying to hit people across the head for the money right out of the gate, it's like you can put a bad taste in people's mouth. But oftentimes when you come in there with the right heart, with the right mind, the right attitude, just to grow and just to serve people with what it is you do. If you've written music, if you created music, and you got your own single, you got your own this, you got your own that, you given the opportunity for your local audience. One of the things I learned about being an artist, this is back when I was in college, they tell you to build, back in the day, establish yourself locally first. Establish yourself locally. Now with the YouTube and with Instagram and social media and all that, you don't have to do that as much anymore. But I will tell you this from experience: when you establish yourself with real physical people right in front of you, you're more likely to sell physical products. When you have something to sell and you've presented somebody with a good presentation of what it is you do, you have a better chance of making a little extra money on the side. So my suggestion to you, if you haven't created any of your own music, go ahead and start working on your own music, in addition to trying to find you a venue. Because when you have your own music, you have more of an opportunity to sell your own music. Now, I don't know how you would distribute that music now. As far as physical copies, there are a number of ways you can do that. Take your pick. But back in the day, I was selling CDs. And it would be, nothing to go to a venue, or a venue that I've created, so to speak, and you make, $50 to $100 just selling your own physical products. And not only that, you gain listeners, you gain subscribers, you gain tangible people that you can let them know what you got going on. You can add them to your email list, that type of thing, as you're building your artistry and that type of thing. So I just wanted to get on here and share that. Didn't want to be super long with this video. Now, if you're wondering about this, what I'm sharing, you want to get a little deeper into these ideas, typically I don't get on here and talk about that per se, but I wrote a book called 10 Ways to Success. This idea that I'm sharing, it actually comes, if I'm not mistaken, from chapter 5, where I kind of dive into a little bit of this in the chapter 5 of this book. This is a really short, easy read. I do have the PDF for this. I do have the audiobook as well for this. It's available on Audible, if I'm not mistaken. as well as on my website. If you want a hard copy, a signed hard copy of this book that talks about other types of little things, little simple, things that the average musician, especially if we're kind of sitting in the background or we're part of the rhythm section, you don't typically think about frontman ideas you can do to create other streams of income or just other opportunities for yourself as a musician. But in this book, I list out 10 ideas, 10 things you can possibly do as a musician to create your own opportunities. That way you're not sitting at the house depressed, waiting on a gig, waiting on somebody to call you. I've been there. And I've been, wondering, well, why ain't anybody calling me? Well, if you're doing your own thing, you ain't got time to worry about that. If somebody calls you, all right, cool. But if they don't, I got my own thing going on. So you're not sitting worrying about somebody giving you a call. That's just one way that you can create your own gig. So the how is going out and talking to somebody local. The what, of course, finding your own little situation, your own little thing to do. And the where, again, is wherever you can find wherever you can find somebody local. If you don't have active music scene near your home, it's not necessarily a disadvantage. It actually can work in your favor. If there's a hot music scene, like 30 minutes or so away, where people can just go and listen to live music, then the chances of them coming to listen to you could be a little lower. But if there's not a big music scene already around where you are, it could work in your favor. You just have to become resourceful to see how you can really work this thing to get the results that you're after when you're trying to build your own situation. But anyway, these are just a few tips that I wanted to share with you guys, and I hope you found these helpful. If you did, be sure to let me know in the comments, and let me know if you want me to bring more content like this. This is slightly different for me to share that particular thing, but it's one of those things that I know I've gotten a lot of questions about in terms of what do I do? How do I get a gig? How do I get noticed? These types of things. I would, again, advise you, get your own thing going on. It's more attractive sometimes to people when they see somebody that got their own thing going on. Last thing I'll mention with that, you get your own little established gig and get it to moving pretty good. Start getting footage of it. Put it on social media. Put it out there so people can see what it is you do. They can see you in action so they know you're a real person and you can, hold a show, or you can do whatever on your own by yourself. If you need to do it by yourself, put it out there where people can see it, because what ends up happening, I can tell you this from experience, people see it and you don't know everybody that's in your feed or people that's on social media. You don't know everybody, but they might run across your video and want to know, how can I get you to come to my place or my space and do the same thing? And now we got a different negotiating conversation. So you can use the local situation as leverage just to get some good footage of what you're doing, just an opportunity for you to improve your communication or your stage presence, for lack of better words. And now you have it documented. You somewhat have a demo reel or whatever of what you're doing. People can kind of see you live in action, and you have an opportunity to do bigger situations, because they do happen like that from time to time. So this is just a tip, little pro tip that you guys can take if you're new and you're trying to branch out, be an artist, be a producer. The producer thing that I mentioned, that might be an opportunity for you to sample your music. If you're creating music at home, go out and play those tracks with people and see how people are feeling the tracks. Based on their response, I need to go back to the drawing board. I need to work on this. You know what I'm saying? So it gives you an opportunity to test out that music in front of people. Make sure you got it copyrighted. But, test out that music in front of people and see how people actually respond to the music that you create. There's a quote that I don't remember who the actual person was. I seen this video probably 15 years ago. He said about, especially us as aspiring artists, you put the food out there, the ones who are hungry will come and eat. But if you never put it out, nobody can come and partake of what you have, right? So your responsibility as an artist, as a person that's creative or whatever, it's your responsibility to just create it, put it out there, make it available for people. But if you're sitting and it's all sitting on hard drives, or it's all sitting at your house and nobody can hear it, what good is that? All right, so that's enough of that. Again, if you want more content from me, please be sure and subscribe to this channel. Let somebody else know about this video. Share it with somebody. Like it if you found it helpful. And you can find more content from me, bass lessons galore, on JermaineMorgan.net. So I will see you guys on the next video. I'm out of here. Peace.